Good morning. We got a couple people here, and we're gonna wait for more to join before we get started. Hope you had a nice Thanksgiving dinner, Thanksgiving Day. We did. My neighbors invited us over right behind our house, so it was the shortest Thanksgiving commute we've ever had. It was really nice. Probably the best meal. I'm not a big Thanksgiving uh, meal guy. I mean, I enjoy it, but not what I prefer to eat all the time. But man, it was really, really good. Best beans I've ever had. You guys know how to cook it out here. That's for sure. So, hope everyone's doing well and is happy and satiated. The food and the fun, the fellowship that we had yesterday. Hope your Thanksgiving was a blessed one. And we have so much to be thankful for. Truly, we do. We look around this world and see the hope uh, that is missing from a lot of lives. These people, through the different riots and through the different the COVID and all this and things being stripped from them, whether it's their job or their family or their friends or their um, health, even um, their money, their whatever stability they used to put their faith and trust in. You see that the Lord is doing a stripping, and it's amazing to see them still push away from the Lord, who was wanting to, just satisfy. We know how it is. He wants to satisfy us. He wants to fill us. He wants to give us everything that pertains to life and godliness and life hereafter. But so many people are missing it. And even when He allows these things to be stripped from us, we still miss it. So many people are missing it. So we have so much to be thankful for, those of us who do know God and who are called according to His purposes, knowing that He has blessed us with this great God and Savior, Jesus Christ, and that He has called us according to His mercies and His grace, and has called us into the beloved, into the church, and He's made an eternal home for us. So much to be thankful for. As we see things around us crumbling, we know that the rock that we stand on, the rock that we put our hope in, is sure and strong and steadfast and will not fail and does not fail, and will continue to just be that firm foundation for us. Lord, may we build everything we do may be based upon the rock and not shifting sand that the world and others want us to build on. So I'm just kind of rambling until some more people join up, but just thinking about how much we do indeed have to be thankful for. No matter what's happening in our lives, this is not the end. No matter what's going on, the hardships, the troubles, the trials, the strife, um, just those things that we yearn for. We want these relationships. We want things to be made right. We want to have true justice. We want to have true leadership and peace and lasting peace. But all this that we yearn for and we hope for and we want in this life, we know that's in the life to come. Not that we can't get tastes of it here and now, but we know that the Lord is going to bring that and fulfill that within us. And so looking forward to that day. So much to be thankful for on this day, also, not just yesterday, but on this day too. And we're going to be looking at here in 2 Timothy verse 12 is what we're going to talk about today. So I hope your Thanksgiving was good, and we're just going to get right into it. Pray first. Lord Jesus, please fill us with your Spirit that you may do through us what you would have want to accomplish today. Whatever you want to do, I pray that you would do that work in us and do that work through us, that you may be glorified. You have done so much for us, and there's so much to be thankful for. Turn our hearts and eyes upon you. Those things that we come across daily, the things that come against us daily, Lord, may we see, Lord, them the way you see them. Lord, your word tells us um, why you allow these things, but also how to deal with these things. And I thank you that you will never leave us, you'll never forsake us, Lord, and that you will make a way for us through all these things, Lord. So help us to hold on tight, hold on to you in these times. Bless those that are here and the whole family there at Grace Calvary Chapel. All right, so 2 Timothy 1:12. 2 Timothy 1:12 says, "For this reason I also suffer these things. Nevertheless, I am not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed, and I am persuaded that he is able to keep what I have committed to him until that day." And this verse has so much in it. I came across this verse, maybe about a week ago in my devotions, and I was just kind of blown away by how much is in it and what's going on here. So obviously Paul is talking to Timothy, his protege. He's teaching him, what it means to be a pastor and how to act and how to, deal with things that are happening in the church, but also, how to grow and walk in his own life, in his own relationship with Christ. And so he's saying for this reason, he's talking about how amazing the gospel is and what God has done and Christ has done through the gospel. He saved us, has called us, back in verse 9, with a holy calling, not according to our works, but according to his own purposes. It's him who purposes. It's nothing that we've done ourselves, that we've earned this or earned whatever position or whatever way he uses us. We haven't earned that at all. It's just by his grace and by his goodness. The gospel that he's given to us, this amazing gift. So for this reason, because of what God has done for us, because of what Christ has done for us, he says, I suffer these things. And obviously Timothy would have known what Paul had gone through, and we know what Paul has gone through because he tells us, and he suffered more than anyone I can imagine, maybe besides those who have made that ultimate sacrifice for God and for the gospel. But Paul, he went through quite a bit, and we can read about that in other places. But he says that he suffers these things for this reason, because of who God is, because of what he's given us, because of the goodness and the graciousness and the gift of salvation, because we have this future that is strong and secure and steadfast and is never going away. It's not going to pass. It's coming. It's coming. And I hold on to this every day. I don't know how people make it through this life, how they take one more step and one more day without the hope of heaven, without the hope of this eternal future, knowing that all things are going to be made right. And whatever's going on in your life, remember, it will be made right. It will be made right. Trust the Lord, walk with him this day, know that he is going to set these things right. Our responsibility is to walk with the Lord, fight the good fight, endure these hardships, and keep going. Later on in chapter 2, he tells us to, in verse 3 of chapter 2 says, "You therefore must endure hardship as a good soldier of Jesus Christ." It was actually what I was reading this morning. We need to endure hardship. We need to fight hard. We need to suffer long. And we need to do it in all obedience as a good soldier. Anyone that is in the military or that knows someone in the military or has a relative, you know a little bit about what they go through and what they do. And I know firsthand we were expected to obey right away. You didn't question, you didn't do. I mean, obviously within reason. If it was an unlawful order, you could question it. But normally, if you had a good and a good commander, you did what they said, and you did it right away. You didn't hesitate, you didn't question, because that actually would end up getting others hurt or others killed, or maybe even yourself. So you committed to that, and you served the country because you loved the country. And we serve Christ because we love him, because he first loved us. So back to verse 12 in chapter 1. "For this reason I suffer these things." We're going to suffer. That's part of it. Uh, God makes no bones about it. He doesn't hide that from us. He tells us we are going to suffer hardships. We will suffer trials and tribulation in this time. But he says, do not fear, do not worry. He has overcome the world. And we have such hope in that. And he says he'll never leave us nor forsake us. So these are uh, obviously amazing truths that we can hold on to in these times. Whatever we're going through, whatever's going on, he transcends all these things. So he says, nevertheless, even though I suffer these things, nevertheless, I am not ashamed. He goes, I'm not going back on who I believe in. I'm not going to pull back from Christ because these things are happening. I'm not going to hesitate in my walk and in following him daily because we suffer some hardships. Everyone's going to suffer hardships in this life, but we're not going to pull back because he is greater. He is better, and he is worth it. Absolutely. He says, for I know whom I have believed. And again, when things hit in our lives, we don't always get it. We don't always understand it. And a big question that comes up is, why? Why, Lord? Why did you allow this? Why did you permit this to happen? There's my boy in the back. Hey, so why did you permit this to happen? Why did you allow these things to go on? And when we don't understand it, it was said by a preacher, I forget who it was. He said, but when you don't understand what's going on, when you don't know, fall back on what you do know. And we do know who God is. We do know his character. We do know that he is unchanging and he is without shadow or variation, that he is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and that he will continue to be that for us. He will not fail us. He will not leave us. He will not forsake us. And he has our good in mind. He wants to do good in us. He wants to do good through us. He wants to teach us and train us up. And as we go through these things and we experience these hardships, we experience the suffering that can come in this life, we have to hold on to his character. Paul says, I have believed, for I know whom I have believed. I know him. We know him. We know God. We want to know him more, and there's so much more to know about him. But we do know him. We do know his character. We do know his love for us. And his love for us is obviously mostly in the largest way displayed by pouring out his love for us through his son, Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. We know this. So we know his character. Do not let the enemy or your feelings or the world, we can't let these things darken our understanding of who God is or detract from who we know him to be, because he trumps all. And as we look to him, as we focus on him, as we go back to his word, as we remember him, his word stands true. Our feelings and our understanding of the situation we are in, that changes. That can change, and it should change as we get more information, as we see more on the other side of the trial. You look back in your life and you see trials you're going through. You look back and you think at the time, why is this happening? What is going on? I don't get this. I don't understand this. But then, a year later, 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, you look back and you say, oh, I see more now of why God allowed that to happen. I see why he let me go through that, or allowed those things to come into my life. We may never know some things until we get to heaven, and that's okay. But we do see his faithfulness. We do see, as we go on, more and more about those situations, and we see more and more about him. And we see that his goodness and his faithfulness and his gentleness and his long suffering, his patience with us, these things, they do not fail. They never fail us. We might not feel them. We might not have that warm, fuzzy feeling or anything like that. But we know that he's not failing because his word tells us this. But also we've experienced that. So our thoughts and our feelings, our understanding about things that we go through, they change, and they should change, especially as he reveals more to us about these things that we've experienced. But he doesn't change. So Paul says, for this reason, I also suffer these things. Nevertheless, I am not ashamed. Why is he not ashamed? Because he knows who he has believed. He knows God. And the more we know God, the more sure, the more strong, the more steadfast we're going to be. And how do we know God? Of course, we know God through his word. Through his word, through his word, through his word. Always go back to that. Always go back to his word. Always know, get your information about who God is through his word. The rightly dividing his word. Okay, so don't just take anyone's words. Don't just take anyone's explanation, whether it's you know anybody. It doesn't matter who they are. You be a Berean. You go back into your word. I tell this to the college group, the renewal group, all the time. I want to tell them every day. Don't believe what I'm saying. You search the scriptures. Be a Berean. Search the scriptures daily to find out if these things are true. Because I don't want you to be deceived by some preacher on YouTube or someone else. The enemy is very slick, and he'll give you 95% truth, but he'll slip in a 5% lie that starts planting doubt, that starts planting questions, and it's just twisted just a little bit where it sounds really good, but it's just a little off. But if we stick to the word, we go back to the word, and that helps us to keep from being deceived. So Paul says, I know whom I have believed. Why else is he not ashamed? Because he is persuaded that he, God, is able to keep what I have committed to him until that day. He says he has been persuaded. So he is convinced. That word means convinced. He is convinced that God is able to keep what Paul has committed to God until that day. And this is very hopeful. And I love this because we believe the same thing. But do we? Do we really walk in that? Do we really remember that? Do we really have that hidden in our hearts? That God is able to keep what we have given to him until that day. Paul says, I am convinced that God is able to keep what I have committed to him until that day. That day, is a day that is coming. Right? It's not just a pie in the sky. Oh, sweet by and by. It's gonna, I hope it comes at some point. Or no, it is a sure, strong, steadfast event that is coming. We don't know when it's coming. We say Maranatha, maybe today. I hope it is. But until that day, we continue on as the good soldiers, like we talked about. But there is a day. There is a day that is coming. It is a day that is going to be amazing. But just like we know Thanksgiving was coming. Okay, let's get prepared for it. Okay, Christmas is coming. Okay, let's get prepared for it. We have dates for those. We don't have a date for that day. That day when he takes us home to be with him and changes us forever. That day is coming. We don't know when it's going to be, but we can be prepared for it. We can be ready for it. We can be looking to it. And God told us in his word that those that have this hope within them, they purify themselves. As we look forward to that coming, as we know he's coming, we don't want it to overtake us as a thief in the night. So we prepare ourselves, and that purifies us as we continue to go back to his word, as we continue to focus our hearts and minds on him, knowing that that day is coming, and it is coming. He is going to right every wrong. He is going to wipe away every tear. He is going to, every problem that we have, every issue that we're facing, every hardship that we deal with, all these heart-wrenching and gut-aching things, he is going to set these things right. It is going to happen. And we can have a temporary relief or a temporary righting of a wrong here, but one day it will happen. One day it will be made true. And what a glorious day that's going to be. I have no words. I can't wait. But that day is coming, and he's able to keep what we have committed to him until that day. So we commit to him what? We commit to him our faith. We commit to him our trust. I mean, we're taking our lives. You're sitting here on a Friday morning, Black Friday morning, where you're taking the time to sit and listen to me, talk about some scripture here, and you're dedicated to Him, and I otherwise you wouldn't be here. You could care less. You'd be like, oh, I'm going to sleep in. I don't have to go to work today or this or that. But you are persuaded that you're able to keep what you've given to Him. You can be in that boat too, and I'm sure you are. But how much more can we be persuaded? What do we give Him? We give Him our time, we give Him our efforts, we give Him our heart, we give Him our faith and our hope and our trust, and we give Him our eternities. This is what we're placing into His hand. Obviously, there's no other hand we'd rather place it. His hands were scarred for us, those loving, loving hands of Christ. And there's no other place we'd rather put these things. But He is able to keep these things. What about loved ones that have gone on before us, have passed on? He's able to keep them. He's able to keep our hopes and our dreams and our goals, our aspirations, our desires. He's able to keep all of these things until that day. There's going to be many, many unrealized things in this world because we were built for another one. God designed us to live in a world with Him, a world that Adam and Eve had. We weren't designed to live in this world. This was not God's plan for us to live in a world that had death and decay and destruction, heartache and suffering and pain. This is not what His purpose was for us. But because we are agents of free will, we as a race chose away from Him, and now we suffer these things. But we still have those desires. We still have that longing. We still were made for another world, and He's able to keep those things until that day. So we need to keep pressing in, keep going forward. Even though we suffer these things, let us not be ashamed. Let us remember who we have believed in, and let us be convinced that He is able to keep until that day these things that we have committed to Him, knowing that that day is coming. Let's keep these things in our hearts as we walk through this time, as we walk through this day and this weekend. And may God just cement these things more and more as we see that day approaching. So God bless you. May His love and peace reign in your hearts. May He use you as instruments of His greatness, His goodness, and His gospel. Appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you on Sunday. God bless.